Hold on a minute here. Where's my... Okay, hold on. Hold on. Okay, I got that. I want to make sure my what's the names is on. I got you. Hold on a minute here. Cancel that. Okay, so I won't be doing you, but we will be doing. Let me turn you on. Chat no longer live. Why not? Yeah, okay. Oh, should be on. Okay, so we doing that. I don't know which ones is on. I don't think on my Facebook is on, but everyone else should be on. Alright. Okay. Anyway. That's if anybody wants to leave a message, as you can see right here. It'll pop up over here. We can talk live. Right. By the way, I'm Juice One. This is Old Jaw Gritty. Yes, don't forget to hit that like, that subscribe, and that notification bell so you can constantly be notified whenever new content is being uploaded or we're live, as we are right now. Now I'm gonna be standing here for a second. Oh, by the way, I'm having a 200 subscriber giveaway where you get my book, Street Skelzy, Knock 'em Out the Boxes. You can see this is a good read, 400 page plus. It's about two brothers from opposite sides of the law who have to team up in order to find their father's killer or killers. Whatever the case may be, it's a run around the tri-state area of New York, and you know it's a lot of action. I'm not gonna get too deep into it, but I'm telling you, if you read it, you're gonna be deep into it, right? And by the way, with that, we also have a giveaway of the Old Jaw Gritty cup, right? On one side it got that, and on the other side it says I Gritty New York, right? So we got that out the way. Let's get down to business. I'm gonna be over here breaking down some fineries, right? My herbal essence. I've been seeing people running around using that. You know what I'm saying? Talking about the herbal essence. That was something I came up with. Man, when Hydro first came out, when we were selling Hydro, you know what I'm saying? That's what, you know, I should be, you know, up and down in 95, and I remember, you know, that was the thing we came up with, that herbal essence. You know what I'm saying? So when I hear people say it, I don't be mad, but you know, sometimes you just, you know, you might have a little something. You see somebody using, you know, playing with your toy, and they're not letting it be known that it is yours, type of a thing. You know? Okay, so Tammuz, identical with Hiram. The secret worship revealed to Ezekiel. The accurist or Evergreen, the beautiful virgin. The all-seeing eye, 47 problems of Euclid, corn, wine, and oil. Romanism and Masonry compared the beast in his image. Case submitted. Henry's resolve. Right, so these are the things that we will be covering. Henry, Mr. Okay, and for those who don't know, if you just came in here in the last chapter, cool. You know, maybe you want to go and find out what this is about. Well, Mr. Henry is Mr. Burton is Henry's father. Now, Henry had approached him earlier in this book, in the first chapter, and he wanted to know how he felt about him joining Freemasonry. Mr. Burton is letting him know, listen, I don't approve of you. And he's shocked because, well, he was shocked at first because his father is a 32-degree Mason, or 33rd, right? Nonetheless, he's up there, and he was wondering, like, why would he have, such an adamant feeling about not joining a system that he was in, right? So we're in the last part of it. He's been breaking down this whole system. We have done outward research. We have, dealing with how to make a god, because that's what this system is about. The making of a god, right? Let me, if you don't know, I roll up the Bluntvilles. I don't get nothing for it. They don't pay me. They don't even know that I'm giving them the shout out. But I've always been what do you call it? An opponent of the Dutch master. We don't, the Dutch were the enslavers, so we don't do those things. So, I had started a campaign a long time ago, forget, the F the Dutch, campaign, basically, So let me just get this unwrapped real quick here, and we can get into this. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was towards the north. And behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz. This is Ezekiel 8:14. Pardon me, I'm over here doing, let me just do this. Now, who was Tammuz? What did he represent, if anything? And what it meant by women weeping for him? You will remember, my dear Henry, that it has been demonstrated over the years, over and over again, as clearly as possible, that Osiris of the old Egyptian mysteries and Hiram of the modern Masonry are one and the same, but also that Osiris and Adonis were but different names applied by people of different countries to the same principle, the sun god, or the functionating and fertilizing power of nature. Now, let us examine what Freemasonry has to say concerning Tammuz, his identity with the hero god of Baal, or hero god, or the Baal of the old pagan mysteries, and the lexicon of Freemasonry by Mackey, page 19. I read. Give me 1 second here. All right. I don't want my paper to get too dry. Try to keep it moist so it rolls smoothly. All right. Pardon me. Let me move this mic real quick. Okay. All right, let me say something to you. This page right here is for free thinkers, right? This page right here is for those who want to see others free, right? This page right here, if you noticed, I don't do the speculative and all of the stuff that I tell you masonry consists of. I show you exactly what it is, how it works, and how to identify it. If you are that type of person, genuine within your cause, right, then this is for you. This is for you. If you are not, you know what I'm saying, I'm not a red pillar, blue pillar type of thing, but you know, if you want to face the reality to what's going on around you, understand what I'm presenting to you, right? Okay. So, where we at here? It goes Adonis, mysteries of. The mysteries which in Egypt, the cradle of all the pagan rites, had been consecrated to Osiris, and passing over into Phoenicians were dedicated to Adonis. Adonis in the Phoenician language, like Adon, and the congregate cognate Hebrew, signifies Lord or Master. The idol Tammuz mentioned in the 8th chapter of Ezekiel was considered by Jerome and after him by Parkhurst as identical with Adonis. Again, in the symbolism of Freemasonry, page 3 and 4, in the mythological and philosophical, right? Philosophical. I'm saying it wrong, okay, because it looks funny there, right? Anyway, right? Philosopher, right? This looks funny right there. Adonis, also a symbol of the sun, but in death by violence, and his subsequent restoration to life made him the analog of Hiram Abiff in the Masonic system, and identifies the spirit of the initiation in his mysteries, which was to teach the second life with what of the third degree of Freemasonry. From all his testimony then, which could be easily manipulated, you will at once perceive that Tammuz and Adonis are identical, and as much as Hiram, Osiris, and Adonis are all also identical. Therefore, it's unquestionably follows that Hiram of the Master Mason's degree is precisely the same character as that formerly worshipped by the wicked and rebellious Jews under the name Tammuz. But we have yet to fully explain sorry here. Look like I'm gonna have to take a puff of the stuff. Like I said, don't forget to hit the like, the subscribe, and that notification bell, so you can get more of this right here, more of me. You know what I'm saying? Doing exactly what I'm doing here right now. All right. Excuse me there. What we doing here? Right. Okay. Under the name of Tammuz. But we have a fuller explanation concerning the worship of this idol and the lamination made for him by the women of Judah and his absolute identity with the Baal of Ahab, Time, and Goodwin, Moses, and Aaron as follows. The sun was also worshipped by the house of Judah under the name of Tammuz. Well, for Tammuz saith Hiram and Adonis is generally pertained the sun from the Hebrew word Adane, signifying Demonis, the name of Baal or Moloch, for formerly did the Lord or Prince of the planets. The month which we call June was by the Hebrews called Tammuz, and the Jews astronomy term Takapua, Tammuz, the revelations of Tammuz. About the time of our Savior, the Jews held it unlawful to pronounce the essential name of God, Jehovah, and instead therefore read Adonia to prevent the heathen blaspheming that holy name by the adoption of the name Jove, etc., to the idols. Concerning Adonis, whom some ancient writers call Osiris, there are two things remarkable: the death or loss of Adonis and the finding of him again. And there was great lamentation at his loss, so was there a great joy at his finding. By the death or loss of Adonis, we are to understand the departure of the sun by his findings again and returning of the laminary. Now, he seemeth to depart twice in the year. First, when he was in the Tropic of Cancer and the furthest degree northward, and secondly, when he was in the Tropic of Capricorn and the furthest degree southward. Hence, we may note that the Egyptians celebrated their Adonai in the month of November, when the sun began to be the furthest south, and the house of Judah there in the month of June. And when the sun was further northward, yet both were in the same reason. Some authorities say that this lamination was performed over an image in the night season, and when they had sufficiently laminated, a candle was brought into the room, which ceremony might mythically denote the return of the sun. Then the priest with the sore voice muttered these words: "Trust ye in God, for out of pain solution is come to us." No, salvation is come to us. I mean, I know I haven't puffed with y'all in a minute. You know, we're in the last chapter. I figured, you could deal with me if I make if I start rambling, because it's not like I'm not rambling without it, right? Take this off. I don't want smoke inside my even though I got another one. All around here. Ceremony might mythically denote the return. Laminate candles was brought into the room, which ceremonies might mythically denote the return of the sun. Then the priest, with the soft voice, muttered these words: "Trust ye in God, for out of pain salvation is to come." We learn from the corroborative testimonies then that the idolatrous Jews of Jerusalem worship the sun god under the name Tammuz, that they made in image of a man which they laid out on a bed and let loose. I don't know what that means. Okay, let me read this. Okay, as the dead, that lamination was made in the night season over the supposed dead body, and that the being so represented as dead was in other countries recognized as Osiris, Baal, or Adonis. In the Master Mason's degree, there is precisely the same sense, I think, a cynic representation as we have already seen. A man is slain by violence and is laid out as dead. A tragic performance is irreversible. At night, and the large room is shrouded in gloom and darkness, grief and lamentation for the loss of the hero god is everywhere apparent, and at last, when a sufficient time has elapsed, the sun god of Hiram is again restored to life. Light is introduced, and the language of Hutchison, as in the above extract, the candidate is raised from the grave of iniquity to the faith of salvation. Thus, then, there can be no question whatever as to the identity of Tammuz with the Hiram of Masonry, and neither can there be any doubt as to the absolute idolatry of Masonic worship. And the positive and empathetic condemnation by the word of God, and in as much as God himself not only revealed to Ezekiel the secret mysteries of Tammuz worship, but also pronounces in verse 18 a most terrible judgment on the wicked and backsliding worshiper. So we are undoubtedly to learn from the same scripture that it is in divine will that the secret mysteries of Hiram should also be also revealed, and that the false and idolatrous worship of the ancient idol, though under the modern name, before banished from his church and from any fellowship whatever with the gospel of Christ. But there is yet another important link which connects the Osirian and Hermetic mysteries, and which demonstrated still further in the idolatrous worship which used to be practiced in Jerusalem in honor of Tammuz, is literally reproduced today in Freemasonry and disengaged and by those ministers, class leaders, Sunday school, sub-superintendents, and other professing Christians who, in the madness of their blind folly, voluntarily swear eternal alliance to the deposit laws of ethic of the stupendous system. In witnessing the Masonic funeral, you have doubtless observation that every member of the fraternity carries a sprig of Evergreen, which he finally deposits in the grave of the deceased with the exclamation, "Alas, my brother, this Evergreen is the accurist so often mentioned in the ritual of the Master Mason degree, and which is supposed to have been planted at the head of the grave where Hiram's body is said to have been buried, and which also led to the accidental discovery of his remains." See Handbook, page 210. Concerning the origin of Masonic emblem, the reason why it occupies so prominent a position both in the laws and the rituals, we have the following explanation from the Masonic teachers in the tradition of Freemasonry by Pearson, page 207. We read as follows. I'll let y'all get started. Let me take a puffy puff. I went back to back. I'm doing 2 shows back to back. Well, really, it's just 1 show, but I edited it. The way I end the shows allows me to just send it, have it up in YouTube automatically. For the minute I end it, my end screen pops up. These are little things that I devised, I put inside there. I use vMix, by the way. If anybody is wondering what program I use, I don't use what everybody uses OBS or StreamYard. I paid for this service. I paid for this one time. It's beautiful, works smoothly for me. When I found out this system, I was my first time running across it. I was, from my knowledge, like as far as a name or something like that, an organization, I was 13, like around 13 years old. I know I was fresh in high school, but I was always the youngest in my crew. I was like I was the youngest. So I mean, it didn't matter. We was all born in the same year, except one person a year older than us, but nonetheless. I was the youngest, right? And so I started high school younger, right? Because I'm at the end of the year, right? So I didn't know the things that, my boy knew about, like, I don't want to call them a gang, but, these organizations, he knew, funny because he was, him and another one, was actually went to a Freemasonic school, like them Prince Hall schools back in the days. So it's ironic that he knew that, like at 13, he knew their name. Like, no, because the young ladies heard my name, so they came up to me asking a question, was I, God and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't know it in the sense, like he was right. I didn't know no group or anything like that. I meant it like, wow, here goes somebody who acknowledges my greatness. Right? So he was like, nah. You know what I'm saying? This, that, and the third. So she wound up getting these dudes, whole bunch of them. We was talking to them and whatnot. They basically respected me. You know what I mean? They let us walk away, no problems and shit. You know what I mean? So, but that was my first experience. Now, me learning about them through those same group of dudes later on, right? Through that same group, but not the same individuals, but that same group later on, was how I learned about Freemasonry. And from that one time speaking about it, not the one, it ain't like we just spoke about it. I mean, from that first initial conversation, right? And, I was given some books, about it, and I read, and here we are today, cracking the code for you. And like I said, it wasn't meant for me to figure it out. I was supposed to be like everybody else, but I did what they didn't expect. I studied from observation. We talked about social construct in here. So, I studied from, not letting people lead me into a direction. You understand what I'm saying? So this is how I got to give you this information. I wasn't raised with a religion, so I can't say that I'm woke. I never was asleep. You know what I'm saying? I always was able to ask questions boldly. People looking at me shocked, like, wow, how could you? I was stupid, I guess, in a genius fashion. You know what I mean? Like gullible, ignorant to the ways of the world, but still engaging in it because I was, street. But I will admit, throughout many of things, I was always ignorant and learned as I went on. I never had, my only mentor. Right, I was young. I was still in like public school, and my mentor, he was like 3 years older than me. Rest in peace. And from that little bit of information that I got from him, I felt comfortable like him. Like I remember, not really, him smoking and me pretending to smoke, and him telling me like, yo, listen, because I'm getting the cigarettes from him. You know what I'm saying? I remember him like just being like, yo, listen, man, you ain't got to do that. You already down. And I was like, word, I'm down. You know what I'm saying? And from then, like I even approval from him, like he set me free. You know what I'm saying? He set me free from even looking from approval from him, and I was always grateful for that. Because I remember one time he was about to go do something, and I was with another one of my boys who didn't live that lifestyle, and he was like, yo, you want to go with us? And I was like, nah, I'm with my man. And he was like, all right. And it wasn't no, sucker peer pressure or anything like that. And so he was always a genuine dude, and so every time Jesus Mercado, funny name is Jesus, right? I got mad stories for you about the brother. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's just how I do. So when I learn things, I pass this information. Where I got it from. Whether I figured it out myself or not, I was still engaged in situations that brought things to light. Like Mahabone. Like I would have never found this book if it wasn't for Granddaddy. And that's out in Virginia. Let me just finish smoking this and we can finish this up. Okay. And all the ancient systems. Oh, that, by the way, that was sugar. What was the name of that again? Don't matter. And all the ancient systems of religion, the mysteries of initiation, there was always someone plant consecrated in the minds of the worshipers, in the participants, by the practical, by a peculiar symbolism, and therefore held an extraordinary variation of a sacred emblem. Thus, the ivory was used in the mysteries of Dionysus, the myrtle in those of Charis, the Icara or Hirth of the Osirian, and the letters in the Adonian mistletoe of the Celtic, the lotus or water lily of India and Egypt, and incidentally, symbolism of Freemasonry is Cassia or Icara, right? Acura, right? And again on page 212. One fact is admitted that the Masonic sprig of Acura is a substitute for the lotus, the Icara, the ivory, the myrtle, the mistletoe, etc., and secured plant of the ancient mysteries. It is precisely the very same evergreen shrub or branch which is also referred to in Ezekiel 8:17. And the religious services of the secret mysteries, which in that the emblem was associated with Jerusalem by the idolatrous Jews, are precisely the same religious ceremonies and the same secret mysteries in which it is connected in our own day in the Masonic Lodge. That's telling you, Masonry is Judaism. It is a light thing for the house of Judah, says Jehovah, speaking to a prophet, that they commit the abomination which they commit here. For they have filled the land with violence, and have returned to provoke me to anger, and lo, they put the branch to their nose. That's Ezekiel 8:17. This branch is the accurist of Freemasonry, and it is also the palm or evergreen of the false worship of Rome. But To conclude our investigation of the sublime mysteries of Freemasonry, I shall offer a few more proofs through the collective form of the emblems of the Master Mason degree, and these shall be the last to show. These will be the last to show that not even the most minute practical is wanting to demonstrate the absolute identity of our modern system of Freemasonry with the old Baal or Tammuz or Osirian worship of the mysteries. The holographic figure, the hieroglyphic figure. The accompanying figure occupies a conspicuous and prominent place in the master's carpet, in every Masonic lodge room, in every Masonic manor. Hold on, let me just show you this picture. Right. So as you see, right? What do you see? Right? What do you see? Right? Right? Okay. So, right? When we see the broken pillar, right? See the book, the word, right? Okay. See the sickle. I don't know if you can see the sickle. I might be in the way. Right? See the time, hourglass. Okay. So. Oh, my fault. I forgot what I was saying there. Masonic manual, right? Of any note throughout the world. It consists, as we are informed in the ritual, see handbook, page 235, of the beautiful virgin weeping over a broken column. Before her, a book open, in her right hand an accurist, in her left an urn, behind her time standing, unfolding her regaled and continuing counting her hair. Now, what is the real origin of this figure? Who might introduce it to Freemasonry? And whence did the idea of this emblem borrow? Its true history is found in Pearson's Traditions of Freemasonry, page 220, as follows. Within the last 50 years, there have been added to the American emblems of Freemasonry that which is sometimes termed a hieroglyphical figure, a female weeping over a broken column, a book open before her, in her hand a spring, in her left an urn, time standing behind her, and his finger enfolded in the ringlet of her hair. This figure was designed by Reverend Jonathan Ney for the hieroglyphic monitor published by Jeremy L. Cross in 1819. The idea doubtless was arrival from the legend of Isis weeping at Bibles over the column torn from the palace of the king, which continued would contain the body of Osiris, while Horus, the god of time, pours embryo on her hair. See page 346, the all-seeing eye. The Abbey Poach, in referring to Osiris, the chief deity of the Egyptians, in their history, in his History of the Heavens, Historia der Ciel, goes on to relate that the luminary, the sun, as it was, let me make sure, luminary, yeah, I guess it's luminary. And here you can't, it looks totally different. Luminary, as it was the grandest object in nature, had also its peculiar character or mark in the symbolic writing. It was called Osiris. This word, according to the most ridiculous, judicious and most learned among the ancients, signified the inspector and couchman, and the leader, the king, the guard, the moderator of the stars, the soul of the world, the governor of nature. The god of the Masonic worship is termed the great architect of the universe, the supreme ruler of the universe. From the energy of the term in which it was composed, it signifies in general the governor of the earth, which amounts to the same sense, and it is because they gave the name and function to the sun that it is expressed in their writing, sometimes by the figure of a man bearing a scripture, sometimes by a encroachment carrying a whip, or plainly by an eye. See also Pearson's Traditions, page 231, where the same account is literally given. This then is the origin of the Masonic emblem called the all-seeing eye, which we have seen is nothing more than a symbol of the sun made use of by the ancient Egyptians, and from them descending to the Masons. To make it represent the true God would be a direct violation of the divine command. See Ezekiel 24:5. I guess it's Isaiah. I think that's 40:18-25. The 47 problem of Euclid. And now, as the true origin of the 47 problems of Euclid as masonry emblem, and the last to which I deem it necessary to refer. In the tradition of Freemasonry, in Pearson's page 83, I read as follows. The mysteries among the Chinese and the Japanese came from India and had similar rites. The equilar triangle was one of their symbols, as it is in masonry, and so that the mystical Y, both alluding to the Trian God and later being the infallible name, ineffable name of deity, and for which symbol the modern Mason was substituted the 47 problems of Euclid from the similarity to shape having lost the explanation of the original symbol. Even the symbol of corn, wine, and oil used in all the Masonic consecrations, and which is also mentioned in the rituals of the second degree as referring to the wages of the fellowcraft or the Masonic truth, and borrowing from the old Baal worship of the mysteries, and alluded to by Horus, then reproving the Israelish church for her wicked adulteries, for how was the song? I thought I turned it down. Okay, for she did not know that I gave her corn and wine and oil, and multiplied her silver and gold, which she prepared for Baal. Hosa, this is 2:8. There is but one key which can unlock the real secret of Freemasonry, and but one source from which to obtain the true meaning of all Masonic symbolism. And that key and that source are plainly furnished us in the following extract from one of the standards and most popular manuals of the order. And in the general Ashman Reason, or Freemason's Guide by D. Sickle, 33 degrees, page 56, we read as follows. It is our duties then to make Freemasonry the object of a profound study. We must consult the past. We must stand on the segregates of the murdered but restored Osiris in Egypt, into the caverns of Phrygia, and hold communion with the Cabri penetrate the Cologian Fabian of ancient Rome, the work of the mystic circle of Sidon, and a word. We must pursue our research until we find the thought that lay in the mind of those who created the institution and founded our mysteries. Then we shall know precisely what they mean. This is exactly what we have done, and the result is before you. We have carefully examined every part of the Masonic system and philosophy, from the cable toll to the hoodwink of the preparation room, and the lesser mysteries to the grave of Osiris as we saw it dug on the bow of a hill, and his body buried at the foot of a tamarind tree. We have traced back every ceremony, accounted for every symbol, and pointed out every true source of significance of all its emblems. We have stood by and supposed crouch of Tammuz or Adonis in Jerusalem, and heard the lamentations made over him by the women of Judah. We have been in the wilderness of sin and to the plains of India and Persia. And we have witnessed with loathing and disgust the lascivious worship of Baal, Peor, and the Lignum. We have even knelt before the blazing altar of popery, sat as alternative listeners in the Council of Lateran and Trent, and have ransacked the musty old documents of the Vatican. We have done precisely what Masonry itself condemns us to do. And as a result of our examination and study, what have we found? We have demonstrated beyond the possibility of a doubt or contradictions that Freemasonry, both in whole and in part, is literally and truly the secret worship of Baal, or the sun god, as that worship used to be practiced among the old pagan nations, and that Romanism is that exact counterpart. In a word, we have discovered beyond a question that Freemasonry is a vile, miserable, adulterous, old pagan beast, that the popery is the very express image of that beast. The Pontifex Maximus of pagan Rome, we have in the Pope the Calligram of the sacred colleague of the cardinals, the pagan priests of various classes with their sworn crown. We have in our sworn-headed priests of Romanism, and in the very classes of monks and nuns, the manipulation of demigods. We have in the canonization of the saints, the ancient ceremonies of the Pantheon. We have in Rome at the very hour, almost unchanged, the wafer called the Mola. We have in the unbloodied sacrifice of the Mass, the intermediate state between hell and Elysium, sorry if I'm getting that wrong. See right here again. Right, okay. Elysium. And sung by a Virgil, we have a propagator and the cruelty of domination and his tools and their prescriptions of the Christians. We have Vividal represented and the infamous detestable conduct of the Pope and his cardinals for generations past. Romanism is unquestionably the image of what pagan Rome formerly was, while Freemasonry is the vestible pagan beast of the mysteries, without a single material change. Revelations 13:15. I am aware, however, that the commonly accepted interpretation of this passage, especially among anti-Masons, is that Romanism is the beast, and that Freemasonry is the image. But upon a closer examination of the whole chapter, I think it will be found that if either view of the case is the correct one, the interpretation I have here ventured to suggest will be found in accord more with the real meaning of the prophecy. Let us compare, for instance, the mysteries of Hiram Abiff and the Master Mason's degree with the mock solemn mysteries of the Romish Mass. Take away the sacrifice of the mass from Romanism, and you destroy it. Strike out the sacrifice of Hiram from Masonry, and there's nothing left. Both are undoubtedly pagan ceremonies performed by pagan priests and pagan temples with altars that are pagan, lighted candles that are pagan, lustrations that are pagan, and with the chief priest of both systems decked out in a grudge vestment of paganism. Both sacrifices are also but theatrical representations, the little round wafer manipulated by the priest and the unbloodied sacrifice of the mass, being the mullah, first initiated by Numa and condemned to be offered as an unbloodied sacrifice in the old Roman pagan worship, while the candidate manipulated by the chief hierophant or priest of Masonry literally represents Osiris or Baal or Tammuz, and is made to pass through all the mystical scenes related in the common legend of the mysteries. Right? In the annex figure in the annex figure we behold the representation of the Roman priest and the act of performing his Latin mass. Before him in the altar with its lighted candles, beside him are his assistants, while in his hand he holds the little round wafer or mola called the host, which has just been transubstantiated into a god. Well, let me see if I can see that, into a god. In which is now about to undergo a destructive change by the real body of Christ being seen under the form of bread, and the real blood of Christ under the form of wine. And now the priest eats the one and drinks the other. Let me, before we go on, let me make sure y'all see the whole picture there. Right? See this right here. Right? So you see his assistant. Right? Alright. Okay. There goes Mullah called the host, which can drink the other. Can we imagine this to be approximate, even in the remote degree, to Christian worship, or is it possible for us to conceive that Paul or Peter or John ever engaged in such a stupid, meaningless, and idolatrous ceremony. Now, let us turn to page 358, and there we behold, in like manner, the Masonic priests engaged in performing the tragedy of Hiram Abiff. Here we have the altar and the lighted candle as the mass. Here the assistant, and here too is not alone a little wafer, but a veritable man, which for the time being is converted into a hero god, in which in the other instance is now about to undergo a destructive change by being slain at the hand of Jebalum, precisely as it used to be done in the old pagan worship of the mysteries. In the Roman mass, in the Romanish mass, also, as you may observe, the priest is the chief actor, the altar is the stage, and congregation the spectators, and the church the theater. While the master mason degree, the worshipful master is the star actor, the east is the stage, the members the spectators, and the lodge the theater. But while the mass is a theatrical representation of various incidents connected with the possession and death of the Redeemer, though it holds precisely the same regulations of the history of the church that Richard III, Henry VIII, John II, or any other of the historical players of Shakespeare, due to the characters and times which they represent. The tragedy of Hiram Abiff as a theatrical representation and veritable pagan myth with no allusion whatsoever to Christ, but in the contrary, his name absolutely expunged even from any scripture passage in which it may occur, and hence in comparing the two as pagan institutions, Freemasonry must unquestionably be by the substance as being the most pagan, and Romanism the shadow or image. But I shall not pursue the subject any further. This is how the question presents itself to me after most careful and thorough investigation of the two systems, in which my knowledge of both I am unable to comprehend how their relative positions could be otherwise changed. And now, my dear Henry, I confidently submit my case. I have fully explained to you the real secrets of the Master Mason's Lodge, of which 19/20th of the 19 of the 20th of the crafts are themselves ignorant. Yeah. Exactly. Now here we say 19 of the 20th, right? Of the craft are themselves ignorant. I have traced every single part of the Masonic system back to its original source. I think I have clearly established that thoroughly anti-Christian and pagan characters, and now that I hope you are tolerable, familiar with it, false philosophy and worship, you can exercise your own judgment intelligibly and seek affiliation with the midnight idolatrous lodges of Freemasonry or not, as duty, honor, and conscience may dictate. Henry. I am very thankful indeed, my dear father, for the very clear and complete compensation you have given me. The whole Masonic philosophy in undoubted heathen's origin, and you may rest assured that instead of having any desire of becoming a Mason, I am firmly resolved with God's assistance to oppose it all I can, being fully persuaded that man is wicked and corrupt enough by nature without voluntarily returning to pagan practices and swearing to support and maintain a pagan religious institution. Right, the appendix. The following is a manner that admitting the new members into. I'm gonna do this one later. Okay, so as we see here, let me finish this, and then I'm gonna come back and wrap it all up. Okay. Let's end this one right here. Oh, my fault.